Hey, what's happening everybody? Charles Marring here, and today in the art studio I want to dive into my Adobe Classic Masterclass series here once again. Today I want to talk a little bit about processes of old in a modern age, and that is talking about the split toning panel and how to use and think about split toning creatively. But first, let's cut to that intro. So split toning in the old days in the darkroom was a really cool process that was so unpredictable. And basically what it was, you'd print your black and white print, especially on that beautiful fiber-based paper, and then you could have toners that you could dip your print into, and then that black and white paper would pick up that tone. And you could choose to do it in a single tone, like a yellow, let's say, and then that yellow would pick up more on the highlights of the image. And then you could tone it again by dipping it in kind of a red tone, and that red would pick up more of the shadows of the image, and it would give the effect of what's called split toning, and it would kind of give this beautiful vintage kind of flair to photographs. So it's not just sepia tone. Split toning takes it a bit further, and we can do that in the modern age if we wish to give that kind of vintage flair to our photographs. Let's dive into the computer and talk about it a little bit and see what we can do here. So I'm going to process a photograph with you guys really quick here in Lightroom, and then we'll get to split toning. Really simple, just to kind of reiterate some of the things that we have been doing recently. So I'm in the develop module, have a pretty photograph here, and what I want to do is I want to kind of brighten this photograph up just ever so slightly. So I'm in the basic panel, I'm just going to brighten it up a little bit there. And I'm going to pull the highlights down ever so slightly. We'll pull the shadows up, get a little more detail into the background of this image too. Maybe we'll add a little contrast while we're at it, a little bit of punch. And what else? We're going to take away a little clarity because, you know, digital cameras are so sharp, as you know. And so just taking a little clarity out, soften it up, give it a little bit of feel. And so perfectly nice image, well exposed, well lit. But what if we want to add a bit of a vintage flair to things? Well, split toning is a way to do just that. And if you scroll down, you have your tone curve, your HSL color, and then you have your split toning panel. And the way I like to think about split toning especially is I like to think of things the way that I've seen them in the past. And I like that idea of giving it kind of a vintage flair. So I'm going to choose to, in my highlights, I'm going to choose kind of a gold tone. I'm going to go way up here to the yellows, and we'll make it really strong. We can adjust that saturation of that yellow here, how vibrant it is with ease. I'm just gonna X that out for now. And then in the shadows of this photograph, I would like to instead choose a red. And so obviously this is dramatically overdone. We can choose to shift the balance of this if we wish as well. Go more towards the red tone, more towards that gold tone if we wish as well. We'll zero that out because for now it doesn't matter. And here at the same point we can say, okay, well let's pull the saturation of the yellow back. Let's pull the saturation of the shadows, the red back. And as you can see, we're already getting closer to a color photograph that just has a little bit more character to it, kind of has a vintage feel to it, much more so than what we started with if we go back to the beginning here. And I think it's a little bit prettier, to be quite honest, to have this warm glow to things. We can just as easily, though, emulate that in black and white as well. Now watch what happens. I'm going to come up to the saturation slider in the basic panel. And if I pull that back, what it's doing is it's stripping the photograph of that color that was embedded from the camera. And I can go all the way back to 0, and now it's kind of a toned black and white, a split tone black and white, if you will. And so that's kind of how we can achieve that. So we can decide, do we want to go completely, or do we want to leave a little bit of that skin tone, a little bit of the greens in there? Completely our choice as we move forward. And we can again shift the balance of this as well, more towards red, and fine tune it to what seems to be a good fit for us. So this is kind of a process of old, the darkroom, put into the process of today, the Lightroom, and a good way to go about doing just that. Now, you can of course do any split tone you want. If you want to choose more blues in the highlights or cyans or greens or whatever it is that you want. But you know, for the majority of my work, not saying always, but for the majority of my work, I tend to like the classics. Things that warm the heart are things from yesteryear a lot of times. And so a lot of times, you know, I'll stick with those classics in my work because they're just so timeless. And I want my work to speak volumes and stand the test of time. And for folks not to be able to tell, was that produced in 2010 or was that the 1950s, right? So that's split toning, everybody. Just really quick, if you don't already know, we create some pretty cool products on our website, shopcharlie.com. I create t-shirts, skirts, scarves, mugs, pillows, all sorts of different things. It's all created from my paintings. I photograph them, have them printed on fabric, sewn into cool creative things. So a good way to support our channel and our ability to just do this all the time for free is to go over there, buy someone a gift, buy a gift for yourself. Good way to get started. And with that said, that's a wrap for today on the Adobe Masterclass. Appreciate you, everybody. Have a great one.